All right. Hey, everybody. Good evening. If you could go in the chat bar real quick and just say where you're logging in from today, that would be awesome. If you don't have your camera on, I would super love to see you. I'm going to look at the screen. Hey, Chris and Charlene, nice to see you. Aunt Leslie in the house. Hey, and there is, hey, Elaine, super nice to see you. Judy, what's going on? Wow, we got so many. Mark Lund, what's going on? Nice to see you. Everyone else, hey, if you could turn on the camera, Marcella, Ryan, super great to see everybody. Sandra, we're going to have a great time tonight. Let's see where you guys are logging in from. Yep, well, New Jersey, that's pretty darn close to us. What else we got here in the chat bar? Orlando, that's where Dr. Don is from. Panama, and I'm sure we'll have people logging in. Long Island and West Virginia. And then how many of you, tell me what all of you do. Do we have business owners? Are you career people, executives, retired? Tell me in the chat bar. Tell me in the chat bar. All right, we got some business owners. Hey, Matt and Deb, nice to see you. Got some more business owners. Also a lot of business owners tonight. It's probably not too shocking. I know a lot of you follow us. And wow, Ryan, so happy birthday. You're spending your birthday with us. Yeah. Everybody type in happy birthday, Ryan. I can't think of a better way to spend your birthday. We got retired from business. All right, great. Hey, tonight is going to be an amazing couple hours for you guys. And we're going to go till 9 o'clock Eastern time. Okay. So it's 7 p.m. Eastern right now. And there's a good chance we're not going to stop for a pee break or anything. So if you have to go to the restroom, just make sure your camera's off, please. Go to the restroom and then come on back. And because between me and Dr. Don tonight, we have a real lot of information that we want to share with you guys. So I want to first just set up, how did this all come together here? And I'll give you guys a little bit of a story. And what happened was, and my amazing daughter, Caitlin, is on here. Hey, Caitlin, is we were looking for a solution to help Caitlin. Caitlin was going through some things in life and she needed a solution and she was looking for one. And we came across Dr. Don. I went on a quest and I met him at an event in Arizona. And then we ended up in Orlando spending some time with him. And then while we were out there, Caitlin was doing some stuff with him. And then Jen said she's going to do some stuff. So I want you to stay on the whole time here because one, you're going to get some really inspiring stories, but two, this is a workshop. So we got to set some good framing, give you some good education, and even try to make sure that we could get a little bit of experience for you here. And we don't want it to be motivational. I want it to be transformational. But in order for us to do this, I have to ask a little favor. Do you think that just for a minute, you can take whatever judgments you have, whatever thoughts about everything that you believe is true or not true? And do you guys could we all just put it on the shelf? Go ahead, just take it and put it on a shelf. I'm watching you. Judy, put it on a shelf. Put it on a shelf. Okay, you guys can grab it back later because I do understand that some of the stuff that we're going to share, you might question it a little bit. You might say to yourself, whoa, that doesn't meet my belief system, or that doesn't meet what I was programmed with. And if you're like me, and probably if you showed up here, you might be on a quest for learning. Is anybody else? Type in learning in the chat bar. If you find yourself, hey, Kelly, nice to see you. You find yourself on a quest of learning. And why do you learn? Is because you probably want to grow, and either you want to confirm things that you know, or maybe you want to solve a problem, right? You want to solve a problem. So through tonight, a lot of you probably know me and maybe not as much Dr. Don. And there's probably new people in the world that know Dr. Don and maybe not me. We called it Unshackled because what I have found out is that there's a bunch of people in the world that might have been dealing with these things, anxiety. And if you're dealing with it, feel free to just say dealing or not. Nobody's pointing at anybody here, and pretty much almost everything we share, I've dealt with myself. But you might be dealing with anxiety. Any of you, probably none of you here, probably everyone that didn't show up, but do any of you deal with overwhelm? Type in overwhelm. Does that happen? Taking care of kids, businesses, elderly parents, and like all the stuff, your health, right? And then we find out that there's some struggles that might be holding you back. And tonight we want to set a framing between me and Dr. Don is, why do most people, or a lot of people, why do they stay stuck? It's sure the heck not lack of effort, right? Type in effort. Oh, Morgan is on here. Morgan's birthday too. That's right. Everybody can say happy birthday to Morgan. We got 2 birthdays. Is it anybody else's birthday? Tell me if it's anybody else's birthday on there. And it's sure not because of lack of effort, right? It's these invisible forces that are running the show. And you tell me, type in brain in the chat bar if you ever just felt like your brain is running the show. You're trying to run the show. You're trying to change things. And it's easy once you know some things, but it's probably not easy if you don't. And some people could suffer a really long time. And the thing about the brain is, guess what? The brain never stops running. And I hope you have a notebook so that you're writing some notes and highlighting some things, and we'll communicate through the chat bar. And while we are having a great conversation together, we'll open up some time at the end of the night for some, we'll open up for some Q&A. And don't mind this camera when it hears me saying, I guess, really good stuff, it wants to get close and personal to me. But since your mind never stops, you sometimes can get caught overthinking. Is anybody an overthinker? Type in overthinking in the chat bar. What about you feel a little bit burnt out? I'll share a little bit of my background. When you build a $32 million company, you could feel a little burnt out. What about triggers and having triggers? Like somebody says something to you and you're just like, you feel like they just ignited you. Anybody write triggers, right? It's like, what do you mean you're going to go golfing again? Don't you love me? If you loved me, you wouldn't go golfing all the time or something, right? What about negative thought patterns? What about that? Does anybody have that monkey mind? It never stops running. You tell people, my mind never stops thinking. And then it's keeping you reactive, right? Making you doubt yourself, maybe stealing a little of your momentum that's happening. And what about past failures? Has anybody failed at anything before? And the failures have created maybe shames or guilts, right? And what about lack of emotional kind of resilience? And your, I would call it emotional regulation, where, you're always in this very like super spicy state, right? Where you snap, and man, if it's just that one person, unfortunately, or I guess fortunately that we know it now, and this is my beautiful wife Jennifer's on tonight, and you'll hear from her. This is our 40th year together, so we've been together since we're 15 years old. Like, we've been through like every stage of these things. And couples, it's very common to have that emotional attack. Now, if you're here with your couple, maybe don't type that in the chat bar, because we're here to help improve things, not get you guys into an argument or something. And what do we want to do? I feel you want to, and since we have a lot of business owners, I'll frame the pattern of business. I think it's better to build a life, business, and wealth by design instead of by default. What do you think? Tell me in the chat bar. Does that make sense? And even when you've built the life by design, things change over time. I know some of you that are on here, and we have a lot of successful people and people that been in my world, and I've been, I guess, gifted to give knowledge, and they did the work, and their work based off of guidance have created more decamillionaires in the last 4 years than I've ever seen happen. And then all of a sudden you're in, how about the next stage of life? You change a career, you go to be a business owner, you leave a job, you become a parent, right? All of a sudden I hear moms suffering every single year, this empty nester syndrome that they say, and all of a sudden depression sets in. And my question for you is, what if there was a moment, right, that you could heal from all your past struggles? Would you be interested? Tell me in the chat bar. Would you be interested if you could heal from all those past struggles, and you could build resilience, and you could take control? And once you see it and you hear a bunch of stuff tonight, guess what? You can break those things. And once you break through and rewire these things, you're free. You're free. So I want to invite you a little bit tonight to join us through this workshop in this journey. And after we experienced Dr. Don and I said, you know what? And he actually brought it to me. He said, Mike, what about if we could do some things together and we could start to just change planet Earth? My language to what he was sharing with me. What if we could just change the world here? And so this is part of us bringing this to you to help change lives. And we made it as easy for you to come from the comfort of your couch. You just had to be willing not to watch. What's your series you're watching anyway? Put in the chat bar. Are you watching Landman or what's the other one? 1853, which these are all great ones. I've watched them all already myself. Or Severance. How about Severance? Reacher, just finished the last one of Reacher, right? Just when you thought a guy could be big, there's always another bigger guy there. But tell me in the chat bar, what attracted you tonight? What attracted you? What made you show? Hey, Mr. Dave Monk, nice to see you. What made you show up here on a Friday night to want to learn some of this stuff? And this would be a good time to either say, hey, I want to learn how to remove something. Jen said, you know what, Marcel, you better get your ass on that training. Hey, Stephanie Biles, nice to see you. So some people curious, committed, right? It is night. I have no other commitments. Thank you, Kevin, for hanging out. And as we go through this, I hope some of you that are not business owners, you allow me to share some how it applies to business, because it's part of life, and how it applies to life, and how it applies to wealth, and how it applies to your health. So who's this training, this workshop for tonight? It's anybody who wants a greater level of life, maybe a greater level of business or career, or just a greater level of wealth without feeling stuck. How many of you would just love to have what I call financial peace? You don't want financial freedom, because, you know, freedom could mean you could do things, but you could have freedom with no peace. But financial peace, right? That just feels really, really good. This is also for individuals who recognize that some of their past experiences are influencing their current success, and they're trying to break free. They're like, you know what, Mike? I keep going through relationships. You know, Dr. Don, I keep winning and everything falls apart. And I hope if any of you are in the system, and let me explain the system. Dr. Don and myself will share our insights. In no way is either one of us. Here's our disclaimer. One, we're not telling you what to do tonight. I'm not telling you to stop your medication. I'm not telling you to stop your therapist. We're not doing that. We're going to give you information, and you're going to look at that and see if it serves you to a new level. The other thing is we're not poo-pooing on the health industry or the therapy industry. There's a place for everything. What we're going to do is just share our own experiences of what we've learned have kept people really, really stuck, and also our solutions that have helped people become free. And if you showed up because you know Dr. Don or you know me, then you're probably, and you tell me in the chat bar, you're not expecting to hear the same thing you hear from everyone else. Is that true? Type in true in the chat bar. You're here because you want to hear something different, because if you already had what you needed and there was nothing else weighing you down, you wouldn't have showed up. You'd feel like everything is going the way you want. And that's what we want to bring to you tonight here for the time that we're going to spend together, and in hopes that you'll say you're ready to break free. But if you love the identity of pain and suffering, well, this is going to be an enjoyable time, but it might not change anything. You have to be willing to step forward. So what I thought I would start with, if it's okay with you guys, is why don't we just start with a couple, they're not going to be very long, but I think what you want to know is what is possible when you consider maybe adopting some new information. Oh, is Kathy on? I see. Oh, Kathy. Hey, Kathy, would it be okay if I also brought you on for a minute? Would that be fine? Okay. All right. So guys, you're going to get a real treat. And I will ask a favor. These people that are going to come, and I'm going to ask them a couple questions. Hey, Brandon, I'm going to ask them some questions, and they're going to share real life stuff. So can we make it a nice loving bubble? Can you type in love in the chat bar if we could sit in a state of love? Because they're going to share stuff that they were going through. So why don't we, hey, Jen, would you be the first one that we could share, please? And if you could, Jen, just share, let's go back 8 months ago, just tell them what was happening in life. And then let's go to what were the decisions you made? And then we went to visit Dr. Don and we did some energy work and trauma work, and then what life is like today. So I'll hand it over to you for a couple minutes.
Yeah, so 8 months ago, prior to that, actually, it started prior to that, I was having some elevated liver numbers. Labs weren't good. Doctor kept postponing, thinking, because when you release a lot of weight, it can fluctuate your liver numbers. And I did. I released over 53 pounds in the last couple of years. So she was waiting to see if it would level out. It didn't level out. It actually got worse. So she sent me to a specialist. And when I went to the specialist, he did some blood work, came back with the same elevated numbers. And then he did a regular ultrasound and said, I want to do a biopsy and I want to get you on a transplant list. And I got off the call, went in my bedroom, laid in my bed, started crying and shaking. My body, my mind, everything went completely into shock. Mike came in, was like, what the hell? And he said, this isn't going to be true. We're going to fix this. And I got a lot of support from him and from a lot of people that I work with, because it was very traumatic, actually. I never expected that phone call to turn into what it turned into. So over the next couple of months, I started doing things to heal my liver, supplements, being mindful, energy work. Mike was doing energy work. And I found a new doctor. And when I went to them, they were great. They were like, listen, let's just start from ground zero. Let's do all new tests, all new blood work. We're going to do a different type of ultrasound. And then let's take it from there. And they were fantastic. So in the meantime, I'm working on myself, working on the energy, doing the supplements, doing things that help support your liver. And so cutting to, we end up in Florida at Dr. Don's for my daughter. And when she came out the very first day and she did a longer session with him, she said it changed her life and that I needed to do it, were her exact words. So I thought about it over the next couple of days and I just continued to watch her work with him. I continued to see the incredible changes in her. She went there for other issues, but we all have some form of trauma. So I said, you know what? I have these things. I wasn't even thinking about my liver at that time. And then I said, my liver popped in and I said, Dr. Don, do you have time for me while we're here? I'd love to run through the processes myself. And he said, absolutely. That day, that moment, when I made the decision, we went back to our timeshare, left Caitlin there to do more work with him. I get a message, I check my message on my phone, and it was from my new doctor. And they said, all your blood work came back normal. Your scan came back normal, 0 to 1, which is normal for somebody my age. And to see them when I get back for my scheduled appointment. So that's all I knew at that time. But that was the exact day that I made the decision that I was going to work with him. Did the work with Dr. Don, changed my life. I could go on and on about the specifics. Real short, I would have been diagnosed ADHD. I never said to myself that I had anxiety. However, yes, I did prior. I just didn't know how to describe it. I always said I had this running in my body. That's another big thing. The other big thing I had was I called it monkey mind, and I could sit here all night and explain all the symptoms that I was having. And I did have addiction when I was younger, and which I found out were symptoms. And so anyway, we get back home a week or week and a half later, we end up at my doctor's office, the new one. And he said, you clearly have to be teaching us something. You don't have to come back. Your numbers are normal. Your scan is normal. We don't need to see you anymore. Good luck in your life. And that was an 8-month process. And I believe everything was a step of building up to that healing, the whole healing of the body and the mind. It's all connected.
Hey, everybody, can you give, if you were to think of an emotion and put it in chat bar, what would the emotion be for you there? And I remember sitting in the room with the doctor when the doctor said, you should be teaching us what to do. And the doctor said, you don't have to come back unless you want to. And I said, oh, no, we don't want to. We will not be back here. So, yeah. So if you write a note down, and thanks for sharing that, Jen. I want you to write the note down that whatever Dr. Don and I teach you tonight and share, it's only going to work at the point that you say you're ready and you believe. And Jen was ready and she believed. Let me bring on the next one, and we're going to do 2 more, and then I'm going to let Dr. Don talk to you about some stuff, and we're going to have a great night here. Hey, Caitlin, is Caitlin there?
Hi.
Hey. So, hey, everybody, if you don't know my daughter, Caitlin, say hi, Caitlin, in the chat bar. And Caitlin has a totally different story. So I'm not going to have her go back to childhood. But Caitlin, if you could just give a nice short version of what was life like maybe the last couple of years with what you were dealing with addiction and anxiety and problems. And then tell us you went out there. How fast did things change? And then tell us about life right now, especially since you just got back from vacation.
Yeah, so life was, in one word, chaos for the last few years. I struggled with what our society calls the disease of addiction, and I was told that I would suffer from it the rest of my life. And it was all because I had extreme anxiety, PTSD, depression, technically bipolar disorder, all sorts of things. And I did therapies, I did programs, detoxes, rehabs, ended up in a few psych wards. And nothing seemed to work, and everybody just kept saying, we're happy to have you back. Which just continued in my mind, this is going to be the cycle that I'm stuck in for the rest of my life. Like, I don't see an end point here. And the traditional route is AA, which that too, they say you go for the rest of your life. And I just remember sitting in those meetings saying, why are we constantly saying I'm an addict? Like, is there never going to be a point that this cycle ends? And all those facilities, as soon as you go to a detox, they load you up on a whole ton of medications, muscle relaxers, antipsychotics, anti-seizure meds, benzos, all sorts of things. And then they like to keep you on them as long as possible. And they made me not myself and made it hard to function and be authentically myself. And they didn't even fully help. I still had the same symptoms. I had panic attacks still, sleepless nights, insomnia, even with the sleeping medications. And it was just a roundabout cycle of the same things constantly. And it was all because of my inability to cope, process, move forward from the traumas that I've been through. And there's big traumas and little traumas, and I've had a lot of both of them. And it just completely ran my life. And I just wanted it to end. So when I got on a call with Don, and one of the first things he said was, if disease is an addiction, I mean, if addiction is a disease, then how come there's not a cure for it? Why is our system not curing it like any other disease you could have, like COVID? And then the second biggest thing he said was, you're not broken. And they want to make you feel all this guilt and shame and that you're a broken person and you always will be. And that's simply not the case. So we went to Florida, and after the first day, like my mom said, I told her, you need to do this, because as soon as the process was done, I felt the most relief I've felt in a long time, more than any drug or amount of alcohol or anything could ever give me. And I just remember going to sleep that night with a smile on my face, thinking, how fuck is this real? Like, this can't be, this has to be temporary. Like, I'm just in like a hypnotic state or something. And then within the next few days and next few weeks and now months, I've realized it's not temporary and it's lasting, and it worked for me.
Yeah. And Caitlin, let's step back one thing, because I think it would help a lot of people. So Caitlin ends up, and I wonder if any of you can relate. She's now living out of a hotel room. Have any of you been to that point yet? You were living in a hotel room and you decided, Caitlin, you were trying to get doctors to take you off medication, and share what was everybody telling you about the anxieties and the depressions and all these medications you were on?
They just kept saying that you have to be on it longer for it to work. And I had been on some of the same ones for over a year at that point. I
Yeah.
think something would have changed by that point. And then when I would say, can you at least take me off of this one? Let's start there. They're like, okay, we can take you off of that if we replace it with this. I couldn't get anybody that was willing to just slowly wean me off of everything. So one day I just said, enough is enough. Like, if it makes me worse, I'm back to square one, I'll go back on it. But I had a really strong gut feeling that I wasn't going to regret stopping them. So I did it gradually the first few days. And when I went the first few times without taking a dose or half a dose, I felt like I was tapping on a door, like I was trying to come back out my true self. And then I just completely stopped all of them. I said, enough is enough. I want to feel like me again, even if I have the sleepless nights and panic attacks. I was having them anyway. I want to at least feel like me through it. And even stopping them, I still had those bad moments, but I had more good moments in between than when I was on the medication. It was like a stagnant, shitty state of mind and shitty feeling, and it was just a plateau, and I finally got it to break up.
Yeah. Yeah. How many of you, do any of you know anybody that they just feel like they're inside their soul knocking, wanting to like come back out? So Caitlin, I know that you don't say you're in recovery, you say you're recovered, which is a very different description than the whole industry. So why don't you just share, like, why is that for you?
Because I'm not suffering the symptoms anymore. I was only in a state of addiction because I had an inability to cope with something. Now that that's not there and the symptoms aren't there, I don't feel as though I'm an addict. And honestly, the whole time I never thought I was in the first place. I just constantly thought if I didn't go through all these terribly traumatic and painful things that I went through, I never would have abused the things that I did to make myself feel better. I didn't think that meant I was this broken person, and I hated that the system kept pushing that on me. So I just felt so much relief that that didn't have to be my identity anymore.
Yeah. And so you just turned 23. And just so everybody knows, Caitlin does yoga trainings virtual. So if anybody's interested in coaching or yoga trainings, reach out to me. I'll connect you with Caitlin. Caitlin, how does your future look to you now?
Bright and amazing. I just got back from vacation. And like I was talking to my mom about it, she said, "Did you notice anything different?" And every single day there was little bits and pieces. Like we went zip lining through the Appalachian Mountains, and if it was the past, the entire time I wouldn't have gotten out of my head, what if this thing breaks right now and I fall from up here? How are they going to save me? Where do I go from here? Where's the closest hospital? My mind would have been racing the whole time. I had one moment of, oh shit, what if this breaks? They'll figure it out. And I had an amazing time and so much fun. Same thing with the whitewater rafting. What happens if I fall out? Oh my God, will they be able to get me? None of that. I just had a blast the entire time I was there. It was amazing.
Thank you so much for sharing. Hey, everybody, type in love in the chat bar. And I'm going to bring in one more person before I allow Dr. Don to give his intro to you guys. Look, if you're on here tonight, it's easy for anybody to tell a story, isn't it? And you might go, oh, that's believable or not. But you just heard from my wife that I've been together with since we're 15 years old and my own daughter. So, and you're hearing two different stories of lives, but both having a lot of suffering and now recovered from suffering. So I hope that's the first little like, wow, things can change. Last person, a really dear friend of ours, one of our legacy members, been in my world a long time. Hey, Kathy, super. I didn't know you were coming on, but I'm glad you're here. First off, Kathy, does anybody have teenagers at all? Type in teenagers. Do you have any teenagers? And do you have teenagers in sports? Because if you have teenagers and they do sports, you need to know Kathy. Kathy, tell everybody a little bit of who you are, and then let's share whatever you're willing to share of your own experience.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Mike. I'm Kathy Helene. I'm the owner of Bearcat Coaching. I work with teens and student athletes to unlock their potential and just break through on their confidence and get through what's holding them back. So I was an athlete myself. I had a lot of struggles and setbacks and not a lot of confidence growing up. And I've just found it's my passion to help these young athletes find their true potential. So I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah. So Kathy, you clearly, you don't have to share what it was, but you clearly had something that was locking you up or some kind of trauma. You made a decision. You trusted us. Thank you. And you trusted Dr. Don. You went out to Orlando. So first off, how long were you struggling with whatever you want to share you were dealing with?
Yeah, so I've been with you since, well, almost 8 years now, and constantly leveling up and working through these things. But I always know there's another level. In college, I had an eating disorder. Different things that have happened in my life, and holding me back from being my greatest self. But you know, I heard you talk about Dr. Don. I heard Caitlin's story and Jen's story, and just know that all of you are here for a reason. It's not just by chance. And I truly believe that. We happened to be going to Florida after we had heard Caitlin's story, and I'm like, I have to meet this guy. I have to talk to this guy. I know there's another level. I felt my energy was low. I felt stuck, kind of that, and I don't know if anybody else have felt that, where you're just procrastinating and you don't have clear direction. It's kind of muddied and, just in a place. And it's not anything that you did wrong. It's just somewhere that you're stuck. And I felt like there's always another level to unlock. So when I was down there, I spent the 2 days with Dr. Don Wood, and like Jen said and Caitlin said, completely life changing. I can't even tell you the amount of people that have said, I can't believe how much energy you have, and like the confidence that I speak with, and how my passion is coming out, and the amount of people that I know I'm going to help through Bearcat. And yeah, it was like an incredible shift. And like Caitlin said, like how did it, doesn't make sense, but it does make sense. And once you learn the process and you're open to change, and you're open, and I think that's the number one thing, is that you have to be open to it. So understand that you're not just here by chance. You're
Yeah.
here for a reason, and that there's always another level to unlock.
Yeah, thank you. And will you make sure, Kathy, will you put some information in the chat bar for anybody that wants to look at Bearcat Coaching? We're super proud. She has a movement of changing teen athletes, and she is part of the greatest of what's changing the planet today. So, Kathy, thank you so much for sharing. Give her some love in the chat bar, everybody. And hey, some of you at this point, you're already saying, I'm sure you're like, who's Dr. Don? I want to know more. How do I reach out? Look, by the end of this, I'll share some different things that we have. How, if you want to work with Dr. Don Wood and myself have something that we're doing together. So, hey, Dr. Don, what a proud moment for you to sit here the last 30 plus minutes and listen to this. So, why don't you share a little bit of who you are, and everybody type in the chat bar, hi, Dr. Don.
Hey, everybody. Great to be here. I just love working with Mike and Jennifer, what they're doing, and the people they're helping. That's why I think we hit it off so well, because everything you're doing to help people grow their businesses is phenomenal. And I think it's sort of a great combination. So a lot of times people just have these blocks, and they don't know where it's coming from. And just what Kathy was talking about, what a pleasure to meet Kathy. Wow. I mean, you can see why she's so effective as a coach. But what I think she resonated with is because, especially as an athlete, she got the idea that everybody has another gear. Everybody can level up a little bit more. Everybody has more in them. And sometimes what's interfering with that is, especially for high performers sometimes think, I mean, I had a guy that I work with. He's a former Major League Baseball player, six-time All-Star. I mean, phenomenal talent. And what he said to me is, he goes, what people don't understand is, he says, I sat on the bench with these guys in professional baseball having anxiety attacks, panic attacks. He says, drinking problems, drug problems. Everybody thinks because they're millionaires, they don't have any problems. He said they had as many, sometimes even more. And so where does that all come from? It's generally coming from trauma. So even though they're performing at a high level, imagine what happens when you get those things out of the way. So, and not everything is a big T trauma. And so one of the things that I talk about, and I wrote in my second book, I called them emotional concussions, because they may not be a big T trauma. So for example, what I did is I wrote the book and I said, here are 10 things that successful people don't do. As opposed to saying, here's what successful people do. It's easier to sort of see yourself in one of these things. So for example, successful people don't procrastinate. So if you could still be successful, but you procrastinate, why are you doing that? So, and you've heard me say this many, many times, it's impossible to sabotage yourself. People will say, oh, I sabotage myself. And I say, it's actually impossible. The brain can't do that. It's focused on your survival. It's trying to keep you alive. And so even though you may look like you're on a good path, your mind may switch you into another path, because it anticipates danger. It anticipates that you're going to get hurt, and is going through old experiences. And one of the examples I gave, one lady, very successful businesswoman, very successful CEO. And she said, but I procrastinate all the time and I don't know why. And she says, I write it off as the fact that I work better under pressure. And I said, well, let me just get rid of that fallacy, because you don't, right? Anybody who thinks they work better under pressure is not true, right? We work better when we're calm and relaxed. And so the idea is to be able to calm the nervous system down. But she never understood where the procrastination came from until we sort of examined her life. And one of the things that she talked about was her mother was the principal at the school she went to. And she says, and my mother would always make me bring me my homework at the end of the day. And she says, and every time I brought it, and she goes, I see this red pen, and she's underlined all my mistakes. And it made her feel bad. She was feeling like her mother was criticizing her. So she hated going to her mother and getting criticized. So what she had been doing as an adult was staying away from that pain. So if I can put everything off to the last minute, nobody can review my work, and I just get it pushed through and I don't get criticized, and we just deal with the consequences. Now, she's a good enough CEO to get away with that. She had a good brain for her business and she was able to get away with it. But she had no idea where it was coming from. And because she was successful, who would think that that would be something so simple? And this is what I talk about as well, especially for parents out there. And this is what we talked about with Kathy as well, is when you're dealing with these athletes, be very careful the words you use, because these young minds are not familiar with the language that we're using as adults. So we've become familiar with the vernacular that we're using. So they will interpret some words completely different than you intended. And anybody who's gone through the audios with our program, I talk about that, the words and the music. So the music is saying, I love you, and the words are saying, you're bad. That's how they're interpreting it. So you think they're hearing the music, which they may be, but they're also hearing the words, and they misinterpret the words. So it can very, very easily happen. And the biggest advice I give to parents is make your home safe. Because if they live in a safe home, they're going to get bumped in the world, but keep your home safe. And what I sort of explain, this is a good way of explaining it. When there's a school shooting, the children obviously experience post-traumatic stress from a school shooting. But you know where they're finding most of the post-traumatic stress is coming from? Is when they see their parents after the shooting. So they're expecting to be embraced and loved, and the parents falling apart and crying. You understand why that would happen. But what they're trying to do is make the parents understand you have to be open, your arms open, smiling, I got you, come to me, right? As opposed to falling apart. That will make a huge difference in their recovery. So just in day-to-day life, you need to do the same thing.
Dr. Don, share everybody, because one of the things I always like to know about people is what got you into this. And you have such a powerful story of how much a parent can care for a child. And how many of you have children? Type in children in the chat bar. And how much do you care about them? I mean, people that aren't parents yet, they just don't really understand that connection. So tell everybody, why did you even start learning this stuff?
It was really to save my daughter's life. I was never in this. I was an entrepreneur like a lot of you. But I got into this because my daughter was diagnosed with 2 autoimmune disorders, and the second one was a potential death sentence. She had Crohn's first, and then the second disorder was called idiopathic pulmonary hemosiderosis, which basically just means idiopathic says we have no idea what this is, right? So they had no idea how it caused, what caused the Crohn's, what caused the hemosiderosis. They said there's no cure for either one of them. She has to manage both of them for the rest of her life. And I just wasn't willing to accept that.
Yeah.
And my daughter would not be alive today. There's no doubt in my mind that the way they were treating it. And it's not because I don't think they cared. I think they just haven't been trained. So when I went into it, the people that were treating her Crohn's were focused on Crohn's. And what now I know is I can tell you for sure that for her, Crohn's was the symptom. It wasn't the problem. So they're treating the symptom. They're never going to fix the problem. And the same thing with the hemosiderosis. It was coming, and like Caitlin was just talking about, and what an amazing young woman to be able to do the things that she did and came in here detoxing yourself. Anybody who's been in addiction knows that is just maybe the most difficult thing you'll do in your life. So my daughter dealt with trauma as well that we weren't aware of. And then that was causing, so this is one of the things that I'm showing in the research that I'm doing, and we're publishing the studies, that unresolved trauma is creating inflammation, which is compromising the immune system. And that's what was my daughter's issue. High inflammation, low immunity. And so that was creating all the problems for her.
Yeah.
Great to see
Yeah.
some people here from BBD live. Welcome.
Very powerful.
Glad to see you.
Yeah. Hey, let me, everybody grab a piece of pen and paper. I want you to draw something with me that I think is going to really help you out through something that I learned here. And give a big boom to Dr. Don. He's going to talk some more to you guys tonight and teach some more information. As I've been trying to figure out some things in life, I was wondering why did I feel like I was always getting stuck? I wonder about all of you. Have you ever felt like you wanted to try to achieve something or solve something, and all of a sudden you just don't get there? Like, tell me in the chat bar there. You feel like, man, you're just so close to it, but it's just not working for whatever reason. And kind of like my tablet right now. So I will draw this in the air for you guys, and you'll draw with me. So the first step about everything, and I'm going to share it through my own story, is I wanted to grow a service company. Now, being a martial artist, any other martial artist, type in martial art in the chat bar. Being a martial artist for now over 40 years, I had a lot of discipline, and I knew where I was. And I want you all to just draw a circle and write, like, this is where I'm at today. And if you were to be honest with yourself, where you're at today, right now in this moment, what are some of the words you would say? Would you say that you're excited or frustrated or stressed or fatigued? Give me a couple words in the chat bar there, and I'll see if the energy here wants to allow me to connect my tablet here. So let's see what we got. Yeah, frustrated. Anybody else? Okay, anxious, right? And I'm sure all fearful. And this is a lot of the things that I also felt throughout the year, especially when I wanted to grow a service company. It sounds like some of you are new in my world, and I wanted to grow a company, which later I did. I grew it from under $1 million to 32 million. And then I sold that in 2017. And I learned a lot about, you got to be clear where you're at. Now, tell me where some of you want to go. Where do you want to go in the next couple of years? Like, I would imagine less fear. You might want to have money in your bank. Do you want to have a incredible relationship, right? Tell me, what are all these things? You want to have a house. One thing through these formulas, and what I would say by empowering your mind and changing things, I'm super proud. My wife and I have been debt-free since we're 28 years old, and I'm level 54 right now. So if you want to tell me what level you are, that's okay. Or you could change it, because we won't know any different anyway. And what I found out through going through this process is, one, you got to know exactly where you're at, and you want to be honest with yourself. You also want to know, draw this, where you want to go. So where am I at? I'm frustrated. I'm annoyed. I'm broke. I don't feel loved. My relationship is not connected, whatever it is. And where do you want to go? Well, I want to be closer with my relationship. It's one of the things my wife and I have if anybody's interested, reach out to us. We have a couples event coming up. I think there's 12 or 13 couples coming to it. And I'm always amazed that so many relationships are frustrated that they're not getting to the level they want, but they don't invest in helping it get to the level. And you probably know that you want to build a bridge here. This is pretty common sense. This is not revolutionary to you guys. And there's action steps you got to do. But here's the part that nobody taught me, and I had to figure out. Maybe like you, it feels like something's pulling against your success. And it's this line right here. And that's called the resistance line. And inside the resistance line is all these things that are from your past program, your traumas and your guilts and your shames and your anxieties. And that resistance line, you keep stacking on it, right? You keep putting levels in it over time. But once you start to remove this, and I'll give you a real example of something I learned. Because I've been also working and helping people in business and life for well over 3 decades, I'll share something that I was trying to figure out. I was trying to figure out, why can some people carry weight on their body? They can eat the healthiest food. They could drink twice their body weight in water or half their body weight in water. They eat all the protein. They go to the gym and they work out. And tell me if any of you relate to this. You did everything, but you just can't release some weight. Anybody or just me? And when you do lose the weight, sometimes it comes back with a vengeance, doesn't it? Is it only me that experienced that? You lose 10 pounds and you get 20 pounds. Well, first off, anything your mind loses, guess what it wants to do? Tell me in the chat bar. When you lose weight, your brain goes, really? It sounds like you lost something. Let me go find it. The second thing I learned is that the universe wants, it's such an intelligent infrastructure of energy we live in. If it feels that you have trauma, it wants to ground you to planet Earth. So you know what it does? It stacks weight on you. And you might think, this is foo-foo, but I'm going to share with you. Over decades of helping people remove mind blocks, limiting beliefs, energetic blocks, people go, I'm doing nothing different. And weight is just falling off. And I said, because of this, and I want you all to write this down, the body follows the mind. The body follows the mind. And if the mind is in chaos, the body's going to follow it. And that's why a lot of people, let me share my screen again, they'll share this with you. They'll say the word like this, dis-ease, right? Dis-ease. And when the mind is not at, right? When the mind is not at ease, it says to the body, hey, it looks like you're not happy. Why don't we just start to just destroy you? But if we could remove these things and make you happy, well, then guess what? We can start to heal you. The same way as you cut your arm and it heals. Even if you got to sew it up, it heals itself. So let's pause 1 minute. Type in the chat bar, what is something that's resonating with you? What is something that's making you think a little different? Even if it's like, I'm ready, you're ready now. You know you can fix things. You know you can heal yourself, because I'm going to share some more stories that are not rarities, that they actually happen all the time. I can recover, of course, because the minute you make this decision, I don't want to be in recovery. I want to be recovered. And just consider, and I get it, it's breaking, it's trying to break the norm of a system. When you have a headache, and this is an example I probably used for 30 years. When you have a headache, answer this for me in the chat bar, and you take Advil or Tylenol, is your brain lacking Advil and Tylenol? No, it's not lacking, but you take it and it says, hey, brain, let me just hijack you a little bit. And then the body will kind of hopefully reset itself and your headache will go away. So what's really holding people back? Is it the anxiety and the depression? Is it the identity? Hey, and some of these things have become mainstream. And please, again, I'll give the disclaimer. if you have this, we're not pointing at anybody, we're not telling you to stop anything. But I will share with you, when you're in a crowd of people, if someone says, I have anxiety, we now have the culture of anxiety. Because they're like, you, me too, me too, me too. And now you're part of the club. And as long as you're part of the club, you feel that it's normal. So what if the world has been trying to just make bad things that you think, normalize it to make it seem like everybody has to have it? What do you guys think in the chat bar? Did you notice that too? They're just like, let's just make pain normal. Let's make disease normal. Because if we could send a rocket to Mars and we now can build humanoid robots, I kind of think we can solve anything. What do you guys think? I think anything could be solved. And write this down, like, struggle is not a badge of honor. I don't feel struggle is a badge of honor. And some of us have been speaking the loops, right? We've been speaking these loops into things and creating these loops of pain and I'm not good enough. How many of you know you struggle with feeling worthy? Would you type that? If you did, type it in the chat bar. There's no judgments here. Some people are like, I don't even know if I feel worthy. I own a business. Am I worthy? I have a beautiful wife or husband. Am I worthy? Well, let me tell you, you are worthy. You're worthy of an incredible life and an incredible family. But if there's another pill and another person saying you're broken, and you're not going to logic yourself to the next level, it's pretty hard to do that. It's very rare.
Mike,
Somebody, yeah, go ahead, Dr. Don.
I want to add something too, which I think is
Yeah.
really important, is that when we're in a constant state of fight or flight, and so, we're talking about health issues, right? The reason why we get into health issues like weight and things like that is because the mind doesn't want to do maintenance when it's in fight or flight. The focus is survival. So it's not going to worry about everything else. It's going to be focused on getting you away from the lion, and you're going to be chased.
Yeah.
So the story that I tell, which is sort of a good way to remember it, is you get in your car in the morning and you say, oh, I've got to get an oil change. So you're driving to get an oil change, and this car of gang members pull up beside you and start shooting at you, and you take off and you're going as fast as you can. They're chasing you down the different streets, but you see a Jiffy Lube coming up on the left. Are you going to stop at the Jiffy Lube? No, even though you need the oil change, that's not going to become a priority when you're in a threat mode. And so that's why we start getting sicker, because our mind doesn't want to do maintenance, not because it doesn't want to do it, but it's not going to do it as a priority. And then if you're constantly stuck in this fight or flight mode, your mind is going to continue to just focus on the survival. And one of the things that I talk about, which I think is really important, and how drugs have sort of become the go-to answer. When veterans come back with post-traumatic stress, one of the things that they find, obviously they've got post-traumatic stress, so they're dealing with this, and they medicate them. And one of the things that they're starting to do is use THC. And they're saying the THC seems to be helping them and it's calming them down. So what I know from what I've done in my research is I looked at it differently. If you look at the chemical structure of THC, it's almost identical to a molecule in your own brain called anandamide. And anandamide, the chemical structure of both THC and anandamide is about the same. So when anandamide is introduced into the system, it's the precursor to the release of serotonin. And anandamide is what's called an endocannabinoid. So it's actually releasing the serotonin. So what they don't understand, which is amazing to me, they haven't figured out, they're saying these veterans can't produce these endocannabinoids. So the brain's not producing it naturally, so they use THC to create the same effects as anandamide. But anandamide is called, and serotonin is the chill molecule. So would your mind chill you out in the middle of a battle? It would never do it. So the reason they're not producing the endocannabinoid is because the mind's in stress mode. And so we're artificially hacking, like you had said earlier, you're hacking the system when in fact, if they get the PTSD out, it'll start naturally producing the endocannabinoids again.
Yeah.
That's
And
the
look,
maintenance.
I'm gonna put a quote in the chat bar there, two different things for you to write down there. When you recognize the invisible chains holding you back, you naturally start to wanting and start breaking them. And the second one is just the act of seeing it clearly begins the process of unwinding it. Just that you're here, you're telling me there's something that you no longer want to live with. There's something you no longer want to keep carrying forward. And between Dr. Don and myself, through speaking together, I just know so many people that are still carrying grief from people that have passed away. I had a person tell me one time, they said, well, you know, Mike, I'm not successful because of my divorce. And I was like, oh my goodness, when was your divorce? I'm thinking he's going to tell me 5 years ago. It was 30 years ago. It was 30 years ago. I'm like, holy mackerel, this thing's got a hold on you. And what about, have any of you ever been bullied as a kid? Tell me, bully in the chat bar, right? And the way that I like to do it, and I'll give you an example for money because we can all relate to money, right? And when you were a kid, when I was a kid, I found a coin. I found a coin on, well, I always carry this one coin. So I'll use it as a model for you guys. So when I was a kid, probably about maybe 5 or 7 years old, I found a coin on the ground. And I said, Mom, I have a coin. Look what I found. I think it was a quarter or a nickel. And she's, oh, that's so good. Now go wash your hands because money is, type it in the chat bar, everybody. Money is dirty. And then you count it out and your parents probably reinforced it. You got your Christmas money, right? Or your birthday money, and you counted all your dollars and you said, look. And your parents said, go wash your hands because money is dirt. Now, I'm not telling you to go lick $100 bills right now. I'm just sharing that message inside your mind has never changed. And depending on where your original family, did anybody's family come from another country across the ship and all that stuff? Tell me in the chat bar. And you were told that story as a kid of the suffering and the horror of it. And then maybe your parents said there's more to life than just work because they retired and said, don't kill yourself. And then you made a decision. Well, I guess I won't work for things or something like that. So are you guys seeing how much the brain and Dr. John, talk about you talk about the 95% versus the 5% of the brain.
Yeah, 95% of everything that's happening for you on a day-to-day basis is subconscious.
Yeah.
You're not aware. Right now, as you're sitting here, if you ate food earlier today or you ate dinner before you started on this, your system's processing all of that for you. You don't have to do a thing. That's a program that's running for you. So 95% of your entire system is run on software programs. We call that the mind. The mind is just software. So only 5% is your logical, intellectual part of your brain that can think and imagine and create. But it is not in charge of survival. 95% is keeping you alive, and it's below your conscious awareness. And that's where all of these issues are coming up. Anxiety, post-traumatic stress, panic attacks. That's your mind. And this is one of the things that I say is really important to understand. If you feel an emotion, right, it's a call for an action. Why else would your mind create fear? The purpose of fear is to escape a threat. The purpose of anger is to attack a threat. But the problem is that software running in the 95% subconscious has programs for you to keep you alive, but it may be faulty intelligence that got created by the parent, like Mike was just saying, called money dirty. So that program is now running and saying, be careful of money because it's dirty. Now, are you aware of that? No, but you don't know why all of a sudden you have a problem with money or a problem with whatever. So that 95% is very powerful and it's literal. Your subconscious doesn't doesn't see anything as good or bad, right or wrong. It's literal. That solves a problem, we use it. And it's
Yeah.
always operating in the moment. And that's why people get stuck in addiction. Because if the
Yeah.
subconscious mind wants a solution to a problem, when does it want the solution? Now. And if you
Yeah.
take that drug, you solve the problem. Because your subconscious has no connection to time, it can't see a consequence. The only way you can see a consequence to an action is if you can understand the concept of time. This is going to create a problem for me in the future. But what part of your brain does that? The 5%, the logical, reasonable part of your brain. But it has no say in a survival threat.
Yeah. So let me draw a little diagram for you guys here, and maybe you want to draw along with me. And is it okay that I talk a little bit, even if it stretches you a little bit, about energy and stuff? Would you be interested in at least hearing it, even if it's something you never heard before? Type in a little interested in the chat bar. If you look at the body here, and this is going to be my happy little body person, right? What Dr. Don's talking about is, first we have this mind, right? And this mind has what? It's stored everything, thoughts and sounds and images, and everything that's ever happened to you is inside the mind. And if you have trauma in there, well, that's regulating with this body, right? So you have this body, and then around this body, you have this energy field, this energy field. And your mind is so powerful that we know for a fact that your thoughts can change the cellular structure of things. And let me give you a story real quick, and then I'll find the name on here. There was a person that said that they were going to do an experiment. Now, maybe you've heard about this experiment. They're going to have they took a bunch of monks, and they said, we're going to meditate on water, a pond of water on the other side of the world, the other side of the world. And so they got a bunch of people with magnifying glass, and they know exactly how the cellular structure of the water looks. And then they said to themselves, the monks, they said, start meditating and sending love to the water, to the other side of Earth. And guess what happened to the water? The water cells started to change. So 35 years ago, when I started to study this, I found out that, wait a second, your body, depending on male or female, is 65 to 70% water. So if our thoughts create the cells of the water either into something that heals us or something that destroys us, well, our mind is affecting our body. So let's go back to the diagram here. So your mind, the freer it becomes from this traumas and guilts and shames, the more that the body structure, and then the more that your energy field can raise. And now what happens, though, is over life, and this might get a little deep for some of you, but based on some of your responses, sounds like some of you know a little bit about energy. We do live in just an energetic grid, right? Like, this is the universe, everybody. And if we had a powerful magnifying glass and we looked at this Apple pen, guess what you would see? Type in the chat bar if you know. This Apple pen is actually moving. It's moving. It's moving at such a rate of speed, it's solid. So if that's the case, and everything is moving, and our mind can change it, then tell me in the chat bar, this might be the first transformation for you. What can your mind do? Tell me in the chat bar. What can your mind do? Now, through your experiences in life, we have these things that happen, and I call them, and the way I learned it is they call it these cords. Some people call them psychic cords. Some of them call them energy cords. And these cords can lock into your energy field and start to deplete you. So what Dr. Don and I are talking about, and we're going to share in a little bit an experience, an opportunity for some of you, is we want to hit things with some of you on all three levels: the mind level, the body level, the spirit level, which is really this energy field. So that if we have any, how many of you have heard of people that have generational trauma? They've never experienced like slavery themselves, but they have slavery trauma. They never experienced the punishment. And these are all terrible things that happen, like Holocaust and stuff. These are all bad things, but they've attached the energy to their field and it depletes them. So what we're talking about is, tell me in the chat bar, how would you feel if your energy field was cleaned up? Your mind was completely cleaned up. Your body was focused on exactly what it starts to help it expand and heal. What would happen to your life, right? You would be unstoppable. Your life would change. And since I saw so many of you have kids, you will change their lives at such an early age. At such an early age, you'll change their life. So tell me what you took away from that, because for some of you, it could be a little more. But Dr. Don, why don't you talk why they're processing that a little bit about this trauma loop that happens for people inside their mind?
Yeah, what happens with trauma is when we have a traumatic event, all our senses are heightened. And we have a memory system, an explicit memory system that records everything that you've ever experienced in your life. It's hard to believe, but every single moment in your life is recorded and stored in this memory system. And it's called an explicit memory system. Animals learn through association and repetition, but they don't store explicit details about an event. We do. So what happens is, if you have a traumatic event and all your senses are heightened, sight, smell, hearing, how's it going to record it? High definition, tremendous amounts of detail. So here's where the problem comes in for us as humans. No animal could have this problem. Because we have this high definition stored in memory, as you're sitting here today and you go outside and you go for a walk, and all of a sudden this car passes you and it looks like the car that you got into an accident with 10 years ago. Your mind, to protect you, is constantly scanning your environment for threats. It sees that white car that got into an accident with you 10 years ago, does a Google search, says, what do we know about white cars? Starts pulling up the high definition memory. And because your subconscious operates in the present, when does it think that accident with the white car happens? Right now. It's seeing it in live time. So then that's going to activate your nervous system and you're going to feel fear, and you have no idea why your heart's pounding in your chest after a white car passed you. It doesn't make any sense. So all of those traumatic events that are running in the background are constantly activating your nervous system. Now, we call that post-traumatic stress. You can call it other things, but your mind is going to call for an action when it sees that white car. And the action is going to be fear. What's the purpose of fear? Escape. Escape what? Getting hit by the white car. When? 10 years ago. It's a glitch. It's an error message. But your mind doesn't know that, and it keeps responding in real time to those events and experiences. And that's why you see people, when they start to talk about a trauma that they had, they start to cry. Like, my wife had trauma as a child. She had a very violent father, lived in a violent home. And so if I would just start to talk and she recognizes little change in my vocal cords, I'm just tired at the end of the day. I'm not mad. She hears it like I'm mad because she was so sensitive to sound.
Yeah.
And then she would start to cry, and I'd say, what's wrong? And she'd go, you're getting mad at me. And I go, why would you think I'm mad? I'm just talking. She'd go, no, the way you said it, you're getting mad. She wasn't wrong. She heard it that way. I wasn't wrong either because I wasn't mad. but she was so sensitive to the sound. And when she would hear that little change in my vocal tone, the tonality, right, the inflection in my voice, her mind does a Google search. What do I know about men who start to sound like that? And a flood of data from her father would come in. She wasn't crying because of what I said. She was crying because the data about her father was running in her subconscious below her awareness. So we both thought it was what I said. So I'm trying to figure out, how do I fix it? I couldn't fix it until I figured out that we had to reset that traumatic memory from her childhood so it stopped bringing in the old data in high definition.
Yeah, it's great. Rihanna, you had I guess I'm saying that right, Rihanna, you have a great question there. Like we in life, we're taking everything that we brought into our mind, and then we're making a perception, right? So the perception that you have is that, the world, the hardship in the world's caused by, assholes trying to get more money. Well, I guess I'm one of them because I've gotten a lot of money doing over 500 million in my companies, but I've also changed more lives than most people have been able to change. So it's first is, let's look at it. Everything in our life, you can see an upside and a downside to it, right? And it's at the moment that you see only downsides that the what we call, you get out of homeostasis. And when you get to homeostasis, answer this for me. This is an example I use all the time. If there's a tsunami and the tsunami kills 100,000 people, is this good or is this bad? And you probably would say it's horrible. But the fact that we had the tsunami and we had it now, it killed 100,000, but now they put in evacuation systems, they put in alarms, safety measurements. If now, instead of it, if it happened 10 years later, would it kill 10 million people? So was it good or bad? So when I can see the upsides equal to the downsides, you could start to get yourself in homeostasis. I'll use a real example for my dad. My dad passed away about 1.5 years ago. What's the downside? Well, my dad's not around no more. What's the upside? Man, I'm talking to my dad more than when he was in his last couple of years. Like I talk to my dad every week and he's not even here. Does anybody else do that today? But if you know about energy, it never disappears and never gets destroyed. It just changes form, right? So when my dad passed, I was able to find grace. When someone else's dad passes, they find trauma. And it's all going to be how you get to look through these situations. And that's why we say it's not about mindset, it's about mind growth. And I invite you to just bring in mind growth. But let's look at this example one more time about energy. If you look at this, and this is you over here, so hi to you, and this is, let's say, money you want. And some people, they used to tell me years ago, Mike, money's not everything. And I said, well, maybe not. But when my mom needed her teeth fixed, money seemed to help my mom's teeth out. And for everybody out there, I always tell them, I want all of you to make as much money as you can so you could give it to people that can't give it to themselves. And that seems to be pretty motivating for a lot of people, right? But if this is money there, and to get that money, we need this energy field. Have you ever heard the term manifestation? Type in yes in the chat bar. Did you ever hear about this? Manifestation? See, the confusion, Kim, about manifestation is you think it happens when you think about it. Your brain is always sending waves out, just like Dr. Don said. Your brain's always running. Now, the wave you send out is either bringing this towards you or it's pushing it away. So if I have the energy in tune with $1, I'll get $1. Now let's look at vibration. If you look at how many of you just can't stand your electric bill? You're like, the electric bill, it's horrible, right? Well, let's look at the opposite side of a no electric bill. we could not be on here right now. You would be in the dark. You could not scroll through Instagram before bed. I love my electric bill. What about your credit card bill? Oh, I hate my credit card bill. No, no, no. You might despise the actions that you did with the credit card bill, but what's the credit card? If you pay the credit card, they give you free points. I just bought boots on Amazon, Dr. Don. I was like, oh, I need these boots. And they said, you got points. And I went, free. It was free because I had points there. Tell me what's standing through. Is your energy, is it attracting what you want? Or is your trauma and shames and stuff repelling it away? And we just want to help you get to the state where you work on your mind, your body, and your spirit. So your energy is aligned and you can move forward. And this is how you create longevity, right? This is how you go to sleep and you feel peaceful. This is how you live life saying, this is incredible that you woke up and incredible you're here. Hey, Dr. Don, one of the things that I would love to help with people understand is, how do you go about even strengthening? What has to happen to strengthen your nervous system so it has a more sense of resilience and stuff?
Well, definitely trauma is the biggest one. And then developing a different mindset, the way you see things and look at things. But a mindset is definitely, and just going back to the energy thing too, because I think this is really good, is energy is unconscious. You're not aware of what your energy is, right? And you're not aware of why you're attracted to other people. It's their energy. And I'll give you an example of it. I had a lady who came in who had been on heroin for 7 years. We took her through the program, obviously get her off of heroin. So I see her a few months later and she says to me, she goes, I want to share something that's really fascinating. She said, the people that I work with, she said, I'm at my desk and I'm now getting invited to lunches, not on a romantic basis, but just people are coming up talking to me. They're approaching me. People that know me are saying, like, have you changed your hair? Did you cut your hair? Did you color your hair? She says, and they're telling me I look different. And they're asking me what I was doing to look different. She goes, I didn't do any of that. She says, but I look in the mirror and I feel like I look different as well. She says, what is that? And I said, that's your energy. I said, before, people didn't know what it was. They just didn't want to approach you because when you're on heroin, your energy was very low and dark. And they're not attracted to that, but they couldn't put their finger on it. They didn't know she was on heroin, obviously, but she is. And so once that's cleared up, she's feeling better about herself and her vibration and energy changes. And so now she's attracting these people that would have not talked to her before. There was nothing wrong with her. It's just the way her energy was being presented unconsciously. So
Yeah.
if you want to change that, you've got to make some changes. And so getting trauma out of the way, I think, is number one. And then what you want to do is you want to start focusing on performance and making changes. Because if you keep doing the same thing, yes, your trauma's gone, but now you got to focus on what would you like to change? And that's what we do our audios for. The audios are all focused on what is going on in your life that you could improve. And so as long as you're focusing on improving your life and making changes to your life, you'll see everything change. Even the people around you will change. You'll attract a different type of person. You'll attract a different type of staff or employee or whoever it is. People in your lives will start to change and they'll resonate off of your energy.
Yeah. Would you guys, let's try, first I want to try one exercise because part of energy, just so you know, is we already said your thoughts attract things and they also repel things. And so does your words. So I need, is there, let me see, Chris and Charlene, could I possibly use you guys a minute? Let me use you guys a minute. All right, spotlight them a minute. I'm throwing them. They're like, Mike, we had a long enough day, let alone you putting us on the spotlight. Okay, here's what I want you to do, Chris. I want you to hold your arm out like this and make a fist. Okay, you got it. Charlene, I want you to push with one hand on his arm. And Chris, I want you to stay strong, right on the hand, right on his hand. Push down. And Chris, don't let him push down. Be strong. Don't let her push down. Ah, she's strong. Okay. Now, Chris, here's what I want you to do. Hold your arm up again. Hold your arm up again. And I want you to say to yourself over. So, Charlene, put your hand on his fist and only push when I say. So, Chris, I want you to try to stay strong, but I want you to tell yourself, you're not a good person. You're a bad person. You're a bad person. Go ahead. Keep saying it. I'm a bad
Okay,
person.
bad person. I'm a bad
Push
person.
down,
I'm a
Charlie.
bad person. I'm a
Push
bad
down.
person.
Okay.
Right.
Now put your arm back up. Put your arm back up and say, I'm unstoppable. I'm unstoppable. And Charlene,
I'm unstoppable. I'm unstoppable. I'm unstoppable. I'm
Okay.
unstoppable.
So I know it's a little hard to see, but your words that you say to yourself are controlling your own energy field. It's controlling your own energy field. And how many of you, be upfront, you have some negative self-talk to yourself, and then you wonder why? You could take them off. Give them a boom in the chat bar. Thank you guys for being a sport there. You guys are now famous, so congratulations. But what happens is if you have negative self-talk, you're actually weakening parts of your body. I want to do one more with you, one more. So put your hands together like this. Put your hands like you're praying and see if is there a middle finger that's longer than the other finger? Or are they the same? Look at your fingers, put it together. Come on, everybody, I can see you. And is one of the middle fingers longer? And if it is, type in longer. And if it's the same, put the same. Tell me in the chat bar. Is it longer or is it the same? Okay, we got the same, longer. Okay, follow my directions real clear. If it was longer, grab the other hand. If it was the same, grab any hand. So if it was longer, grab the opposite, the shorter hand. And if it was the same, grab any hand. So everybody should have a hand up. Ready? And you're going to stare right in the center of your hand, more intense than you ever stared before at your hand. And you're going to say it out loud with me because I'm not going to hear you. You're only going to hear me. And we're going to say 5 times to our hand, right in the center. We're going to go, grow longer, grow longer. So I'm going to tell you what to say. You look and say it together. Let's play full out. Ready? Here we go. Look at your palm. Grow longer, grow longer, grow longer, grow longer, grow longer, grow longer. And put your hands back together and tell me what happened to your fingers. Did it grow longer? Type in longer if it grew longer. Did something change? It grew longer. Okay, it got shorter. Okay. Well, now take the longer hand. Take the longer hand because I can't keep you lopsided, can I? All right, so we're going to look at the longer hand and we're going to tell it to go back to normal. Ready? 5 times. Go back to normal, go back to normal, go back to normal, go back to normal, go back to normal. And put your hands back together. And tell me if it went back to normal. Type in normal if it went back to normal. Now, okay, ladies, I have to give a little disclaimer here. Is it okay? Men, this only works on your hands, okay? Only on your hands. So please don't try this. If one of you hear your husband in the bathroom, grow longer, it's not going to work. Now, what's the purpose of the exercise? The purpose of the exercise is your mind is trained to make you not fail. That's how powerful your mind is. It will convince you your finger is growing, but we know your finger didn't grow, but your mind will not let you down when you believe it can move forward. Was that value, everybody? Type in value. I'm going to ask Dr. Don another question, and then I'm going to give you another experience. And the whole thing that I want by the end of this workshop is, one, not for you to feel motivated, for you to have a sense of transformation to go, today is the turning point in your life. In your life, I want today you to remember this moment with me and Dr. Don and go, that's the day everything started to change. All right, Dr. Don, here's what I want to throw at you here. So, Dr. Don, when you're working with people, I know there's kind of common things come up. Hey, I'm on medication, or I've been like this, or I've been beaten, and there's just this sense of I don't even believe life can change. I mean, I've been in addiction for 30 years. Tell me some of the things that come to you over and over again, and you've just been able to help people with that.
So many things, especially when it relates. And that's why we call our program the Inspired Performance Institute, as opposed to trauma just interferes with your performance. Trauma isn't a definition of who you are. I had a lady come in and she sat for 15 minutes and she told me all of these traumas. I mean, just spewing them straight out for 15 minutes. I didn't say a word, I just listened. And at the end of the 15 minutes, I asked her, I said, is there anything else? And she goes, well, that was a lot, don't you think? And I said, oh, yeah, no question, it was a lot. However, for the last 15 minutes, I've learned a lot about what happened to you, but I haven't learned anything about you yet. So let's start talking about you. That's just what happened to you. And we get defined by our traumas because, oh, I had people say, oh, I'm a very anxious person. I go, why? Why would you be anxious? Well, I've always been anxious, right? So, what is anxiety? Everybody thinks anxiety is some sort of a brain disorder. It's not. What anxiety is a message, and you're ignoring the message. So, anxiety, think of anxiety as an email that comes into your inbox, and the email keeps coming in, and you keep deleting it, or you put on software to delete emails or block emails. But the email is a message from your bank telling you that there's a suspicious activity on your account. They want you to check it out, but you never look at it. So do you think the bank's going to stop warning you? It's going to keep warning you until you answer the question. So what is it your mind is trying to alert you to? And if you find out that it's a glitch, it's something that happened 20 years ago or 5 years ago, and you answer it, you resolve it, you'll stop getting the anxiety. The emails will stop coming in. So I hear that all the time. People are defined, I'm a very depressed person. And I ask why. That actually depression is a function of the brain, not a dysfunction of the brain. And people say, well, that doesn't make sense. How could it be a function of the brain? Your brain is shutting down because you haven't answered the email. So your mind is trying to protect you from the pain of this email coming in constantly. So it uses emotions. Remember, I said emotions are a call for an action. So if your mind has been using anger to get you into an action about something that happened 5 years ago, so obviously you can't do anything about it, but it keeps keeping you angry and you don't answer the call because you can't answer the call. How does your mind protect you? It shuts down. It stops calling for the action by stop using anger. Depression is the absence of emotions. Your mind was protecting you.
Yeah.
Doesn't that make a lot of sense?
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. And, as you're sitting here listening, I know I'm hoping, are you guys seeing a new sense of either hope or belief or opportunity? Tell me in the chat bar, because, some people don't know how much. I'm going to share a quick story with you guys. Another, what I call the land of possibility. It's not the land of guessing. And I had a client that came to me, and I find the power of the person so fascinating. And they called me up and they said, hey, I just went for a stress test. And they said, my heart is so bad, I have to go for surgery tomorrow. And this is scary, everybody. And he says they said it's so blocked up that he pretty much could die any minute, any minute. And he said to me, what do I do? And I said, well, do you want that outcome or would you like to change it? He says, I want to change it. So we gave him a bunch of energy stuff to do through the night. And I said, you're going to go to the hospital. And most people, when they go to the hospital, how do you feel when you hear this word? I'm going to the hospital for surgery. Tell me in the chat bar, what emotion comes up? Fear, anxiety. So I first said, and I learned this from my wife, I said, you're going to go to the hospital for a healing session. a healing session. So does that change everything? Yeah, it changes everything. So I said, you're going to go to the hospital for a healing session. They're going to go in and you're going to wake up and the doctor's going to come to you and the doctor's going to say, we're completely wrong. And you're going to need to say to that doctor something. And what would you like to say to the doctor? So I'll tell you what happens. He works on energy all night long. He's got the x-rays, all the valves are blocked up. He goes in, they go up in, they come to him, he's awake and they say, hey, we got some news for you. It was all wrong. He said, no, it wasn't wrong. I had a different agenda for today. A different agenda. He's cleared every blockages in less than 24 hours. Now, I'm not guaranteed this can happen for you. And I'm not a doctor and a physician. We do have doctors on here. What I am is I'm somebody that understands the power of energy and alignment because mind, body, and spirit creates an alignment to this big field. So let me share something. We got something coming up and I want to share it because I know but I'm going to do another powerful experience for you guys before you go. So please, if you can hang on, don't leave. But I want to share this experience and some things that we have for you, if any of you interested. And if you are, and I also have a free gift for you tonight. If you're interested in spending 2 days online with me and Dr. Don, and some of you are already registered for this, it's only 20 people and everybody's allowed to bring one person they care about. So there'll be no more than 40 people on this because we want to make sure you have one-on-one attention. So I'm going to share this with you real quick, and then we'll upload the flyer so you can get a copy of it for yourself. And it's called Limitless. And I'll tell you in a couple minutes what Limitless is. But what Dr. Don and I talked about after we've spent a bunch of time together, we said, you know what? Let's do a 2-day training together. And let's not make it just educational. Let's make it so powerful that we get your mind rewired. We remove as much trauma as you're willing to remove. We get your mind, body, and spirit back in line. And I show you what my skills are. He shows you what his are. And this is going to be one of the most powerful 2 days that I believe will ever be put on in history. And we want to change. So it's April 12th and 13th. The virtual doors open at 9:30. We go to 5, and then we're doing an hour bonus session of Q&A. So this is going to be a very experiential time. And the flyer has everything in it about what we're going to do over each day. So we'll make sure you have this. And if you're interested in it, you just got to reach out to us at team@fooddawggroup.com, and they're going to put it in the chat bar. They're going to put it in the chat bar. So if you'd like to know more details about this, like I said, there's only 20 spots, and each spot can bring someone most important to them, a husband, a wife, a mom. And I promise this will be, it'll be a catalyst in your future. The other thing that I just want to tell you that we want to gift you tonight, I'm going to gift you a copy of my Mind Power book. Some of you, if anybody's read Mind Power, and Dr. Don, I need to get a link from you because you have an incredible book out. So we'll put that on the list and get it to everybody. This is a virtual copy, everybody, and you can go in, fill it out tonight, and get a copy. And if anybody's read Mind Power, you know that it helps with a whole new level of thinking. Okay, so there's option number 2 for you. 1, I hope you'll do Limitless. There is an investment, of course. Number 2, you got a free gift. Number 3, Dr. Don has an incredible online program. How do I know it's incredible? Well, because boom, I've been going through it myself. And so I'm stamping my name and my personal credibility, which is over decades now. Not that he needs it because he's been on news and he's famous for what he does, but I'm stamping it my own approval. This training is incredible. If you're interested in the training, you just send a message to team@fooddawggroup, and we have a special offer for you guys, and we'll let you know what the special offer is. And this training is, man, it is thorough, it's detailed, it has knowledge, and it runs you through removing traumas. So tell me, is this good stuff? I want you to have options that fits everybody, okay? The other thing that we have for you is, if you're interested, we have all kinds of cool events going on at Food Dog. You got some free trainings. Here's tonight, Unshackled. I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm going to give you the link. You look through it, but I will share, if you're a business owner, come to New Jersey on April 2nd and spend the day. Spend the day with us for free. I don't know anybody else in the world that's given a full 8 hours to spend time, ask questions. We're going to serve you and we're going to feed you, because we're old school Italians like that. You're going to eat good. So there's some different options. And the last option is, some of you heard some from my daughter, and you heard from my wife, and you heard from Kathy. If you want to invest and go to Dr. Don and spend personal time with him in Orlando, reach out to us at Team at Food Dog Group, and we'll help facilitate that. We also have a special little program for people that want to do that. And if you just don't know what you need, guess what? Reach out to us and we'll help you the best we can, or feel free to message me privately on Facebook and we'll guide you guys. So team, just do a recap of all that stuff for them. And let's go into this. Couple things I want to get done before we finish at 9, because I want to give you another experience. I'd like to give a couple minutes of Q&A time too, okay? So the reason why this is called Limitless, everybody, is because, one, we want to liberate you and free yourself, free you from any of these hidden traumas and past failures and any of the mental weight. And you've already shared that a lot of you here probably have something you want to be liberated from. Is that true? You want something rewired? Just type in true in the chat bar. So I'm going to go through Limitless with each letter. So I is ignite. I think everybody, or most people in my world, believe that there's this limitless source of energy, clarity, and the ability to tap into the next level. And my question for you, I'd love for you to answer, is, do you believe there's another level for you? No matter what level age you're at. I mean, I'll be level 55 this year. I'm not even warmed up yet. I feel faster, tougher. I'm reversing my age by a half a decade right now. Then that's not about me. It's about what you're going to do. And I want to have you come on here and go, look what I did. And then M is for master. To be able to really master your thoughts, your emotion, and your future. Would you love to master your thoughts and instead of letting your thoughts master you? And I for innovate, to unlock new strategies for success, whatever that success is. Relationship success. My wife and I, over the last 4 decades, we understand every possible thing of learning the ups, the downs, and where we're at today. And like I said, if any of you want it, is anybody on here who's attending the relationship today? If you're not attending that, it is a game changer. There's nothing freaky happening you got to worry about, and your relationship will go to the very next level. I promise you, you'll have a blast. T is for transform, to shift into the most powerful version of yourself. Some of you have been waiting for an invitation to your greatness, and we're inviting you to greatness. That's what we're doing. L is for lead. So you could elevate your leadership and impact your family, your legacy, your future, impact parts of the world. I know a lot of you are already helping a lot of people in the world. And E is for elevate, to expand beyond this mental, beyond the business limitation, beyond the wealth limitation. And I know people tell me every day, and I want you to embrace this for a short moment. They tell me, Mike, I say, what would you do for your family? You guys tell me in the chat bar, what would you do for your family? What would you do? Anything. Most people say, I'd die for my family. And I always say this, then live for them. Live your very best self. The S, strategize. We got to build an unstoppable execution plan, right? And are you ready for a plan? Give me a boom if you're ready for the plan. And the last S is scale. multiply your results at a quantum speed so that everything in your life is expanding to exactly where you want it. So it's no longer a fantasy. It becomes your reality. So let's open it up for a couple minutes of Q&A. We have a little bit of time, and then I want to end with a little exercise. So throw me and Dr. Don a question you have. If we don't get any questions up, and the team will give you the links again, which the only link you need to remember tonight, everybody, is team@fooddoggroup.com. That's the only thing you need to remember, because if you forgot everything else, just send us a message. You do know it's Friday. And just so you know, can you give a thank you to my team? I got a bunch of my team on here tonight. I got Morgan's on here, and Megan's on here, and my business partner Aaron's on here. My wife's on here. My incredible son Michael's on here. My whole team is here, where most people's team, they ended at 5 o'clock today. That's how much we care. So, all right. Hey, if there's no other questions, I want to do a quick process with you guys. First off, you're getting value. I hope so. And I hope it's maybe even challenging some. If any of you need access to Dr. Don or the program, you just go to TMAT, and we're doing all the heavy lifting to make it nice and efficient for you guys. All right, here's what I want you to do. Put your feet on the ground. Put your feet on the ground. Put your feet on the ground. And I just want you to, with your hands like this, see at what point you could feel your own energy. Like, how close do you get before you feel your own energy? Is it here? And you'll feel it. You might feel a little temperature, or you'll definitely feel something before you touch. If you have to, touch and then pull apart a little bit. And then just pull it apart a little bit more. And see when you could feel it. And when you can feel it, that's going to be the measurement of your energy between your hands. Okay? It looks like everybody could feel it. Okay, shake your hands out real quick. Shake your hands out. Now, I'm going to just turn on a little music, and I'm going to talk to you for a minute. And our goal through this is going to be to enhance your energy. So all you're going to do is breathe a little bit, close your eyes a little bit, listen to me. And when we come out, we're going to see how much bigger our energy field grows. Okay? So take a nice deep breath in. Okay? Take a really nice deep breath in. Breathe in and breathe out. And let your shoulders start to drop a little bit. Just relax a little bit. There you go. Take another deep breath in. Breathe in a little more. Breathe in a little more. And slowly breathe out. And let every part of your body just sink and relax. And one more deep breath in. And make this a nice deep, but calm and calm and calm. And this time when you breathe out, close your eyes. There you go. And while your eyes are closed, you're in a safe place. No one's going to be touching you, and you're just sitting there, and you're letting a lot of this information start to integrate into your mind and your body. And just invite a little bit of alignment. You're in control. Say, mind, I invite you to align my mind, my body, and my spirit. And if your mind is racing at all or moving around, just say, hey, it's okay, mind. Just relax. 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 And as you relax, if there's anything you've been holding on to the last couple of days or weeks or months, just let it go. Kind of like an iceberg floating away and sinking into the ocean. It just slowly just drifts away and away and away. And as things drift away, just feel yourself relaxing a little bit more as your mind, your body, and your spirit get closer together. There you go. You're doing great. With your eyes closed, just keep your breathing. Breathe in your nose and out your mouth. In your nose and out your mouth. And if you have anything that you're worried about at all, just breathe it out. Breathe in and just let it go away. And now I want you to invite your favorite color, whatever color that is tonight, red, blue, green, purple, and just invite it to surround your body as this beautiful mist of color. And as you are with that mist of color, pink or blue or green, just see it cleansing your body, purifying your body, releasing anything. If you have a body ache, any bones or back or arm or inflammation, just allow this color to help it just melt away a little bit. You start to find your neck a little looser, your shoulders a little less tense, your back feeling aligned a little more, your hips in line, your legs are relaxed. And now as you're surrounded with that color, I just want you to go to your heart. Go right to the inside of your heart and just let your heart know, I love you. I love you. And now I want you to see your energy field growing as you now are releasing things, and you'll release more as you go to sleep tonight or throughout your day. And the integration of all the information that Dr. Don and I shared with you, it will go into your mind and it will start to process some things and help you. It will start to guide you, and the wisdom will start freeing you from anything that no longer serves you for the highest good of yourself and others. And feel your energy field growing with this color. Maybe a couple inches or even a couple feet. Maybe you're feeling a little vibration in your hands or your toes. Maybe you're feeling your brain just a little bit lighter. And now what I want you to do is just put your hands on your heart a minute. Put both hands on your heart. There you go. And just feel the gift of yourself. And consider saying inside your mind, I am worthy. I am worthy. And now I want you just to take a little glimpse of your future. What is something that you want in your future? And just put that in your mind, but put it in your mind as it is a clear destination. You could see it with color and shapes and sounds. You could hear the music playing when you get to that. Is it a different house or a vacation? Is it no more debt? What is it? And as you feel that, feel your body and your energy growing bigger and bigger and bigger. There you go. And just sit there for a couple seconds as your energy field grows before we come back to this space. And allow your energy field to grow to whatever level you choose tonight. And grow, grow, and grow. There you go. Start to put a little smile on your face and slowly open up your eyes as you start to see more clear, more vivid than before, and start to come back to this place and move your body just a little bit. Move your body a little bit. There you go. Nice to see you. Welcome back to your best self. And now let's test our energy. Where is it? And did it get bigger? And did it get bigger? There you go. And I could see a lot from the measurements I did have. I could see a lot of you have a lot bigger, and you could feel it, right? And even if you put your arm over your body, you could feel your own energy because you are a field. So just give me a little bit of feedback in the chat bar. Did any pains go away? Did anything change? Did you release anything? Do you feel a little lighter? Is your heart feel like it's more in tune? Give me some feedback, and then we're going to close this out tonight. We're going to close this out tonight. You always cry? Okay, well, that's beautiful. It's okay. Those sounds like nice tears of grace Nice tears of grace there. Boom, got tears. All right, very beautiful, very beautiful. Well, first I'd like to thank you, Dr. Don. So if you could say thank you, Dr. Don, and also thank you to everybody on my team. You got the email. So if anybody's interested in either doing Limitless with me and Dr. Don, and you want to get your energy and your mind and your body and your spirit and free yourself to a new level so you can live your very best life. But I hope you really, really enjoyed this experience. We appreciate you and we love you. Have an amazing night, and we'll see you soon in the future. Good night.